What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Engage 8 podcast. I'm your host, Zach, with my two co-hosts, Josh and Mike. Today, we're going to be going over some NBA headlines and then going to be recapping the Celtics-Pacers series and going over the currently ongoing Mavs-Timberwolves series. So, Josh, you want to get us started with some headlines?
Yep, this morning we are recording here on May 29th, Wednesday. Tyronn Lue signed his extension with the Clippers. It's been up in the air whether this was going to happen or not. It was talked about that they have not been in talks for a while, but he is now one of the highest paid coaches in the league. Maybe the highest. I'm not exactly sure how much Pop and them are making, but 5 years, $70 million, 14 a year average for Tyronn Lue. Fully deserved. He's looked at as one of the best coaches in the entire NBA. He's dealt with a team that just cannot stay healthy. He's played a million different starting lineups over his tenure here with the Clippers, and he's still been fairly successful in the regular season and not the playoffs. But regardless, they've gotten to a couple. They got to that conference finals against the Suns where they had like only Paul George. Um, they got to they advanced one more time without everybody, right? I'm trying to remember. I feel like they won one more time. Or no, they lost last year and then they lost this year. So I guess not. But regardless, he's been in a really tough spot with the guys that the hand that he's been dealt. A ton of players that are really talented but can't stay on the floor. He's still done a crazy good job with that. I know a lot of teams that didn't have head coaches that really wanted to get him. A lot of really good teams like the Lakers and the Suns who really wanted him, but he stays with the Clippers for 5 years, 70 mil, and I think he's worth every penny.
I completely agree with you. I was honestly going to kind of mention some of the things you mentioned with the unhealthy roster, him actually being a pretty damn good coach, and mainly Kawhi Leonard and his not necessarily fall off, but his first like 5, 6 years of his career from when he started in San Antonio to basically the Toronto year. He was a model of consistency. He was playing a ton of games, damn near almost every single one. And then the back half of what we've seen, especially in LA, he missed an entire year. I think it was his second full year in LA he missed. And then he's just been in and out of the lineup with injuries throughout. This year was his first damn near full season he's had in almost half a decade, it feels like. And he made, I think, All NBA second team, if I'm not mistaken, which I think that's give or take could have gone to someone else, but still really talented player. And Ty Lue, he's been dealing with, like you said, bunch of different starting lineups, bunch of different just players in and out surrounding Kawhi and Paul George. And those two aren't even healthy enough. He's just been dealt a shitty hand. And I mean, the extension's great, but how big is this fall off going to be if they can't trade these guys for what they brought them in for? And if they just can't stay healthy, if they decide to keep everybody.
Yeah, he's done a good job considering the injuries that they have had to deal with there in LA. Um, he's making 14 million a year. He's got basically the same contract salary wise as Tyus Jones. So shout out Tyus Jones, Max Juice about he's getting paid at about that level. So good for Ty Lue. He's one of the highest paid coaches. I think it's deserved considering, like you guys said, all the injuries they've had to deal with. So it's just going to be interesting to see if he can finally bring them some playoff success or if it's just going to be have to continue at regular season success.
All right, moving on here to Bronny James, who has announced that he will be staying in the NBA draft. And he has been, I believe it was 11 teams reached out to him for a workout. He's only accepting workouts from the Los Angeles Lakers and the Phoenix Suns, which of course, as a Suns fan, has me thinking, maybe this is the time to bring the king to the Valley and just create. Is that the most talented team of all time if that happens? Like on paper?
I mean, if they were in their prime, yeah.
I mean, KD, LeBron, and Book are all top at least
KD's
12.
KD's in one of the more efficient parts of his game he's ever been in.
I know, and he gets treated like
Plus,
he's
Book is in his
progressing.
prime. Beal, I mean, that's just a terrible contract for what you had last year and what you gave up. But I mean, it all depends on what LeBron we see. Are we going to see him be the point guard, or is he playing the three? Is he playing the four? Is he
Point.
going to play the five?
He played
I
point.
mean,
He played point.
he, he probably should. He's going to be the best point guard on the team if that all happens. But it's fun to think about. But how deep into the pockets are the Suns going to have to go to bring in LeBron? Because
Not
we
deep at
love
all.
LeBron.
The only way
Yeah,
they get him is if
you're
it's on a vet
you're
min.
thinking you're thinking vet minimum, but will he do that?
Well, he's not coming to the Suns if it's not that, unless they do a sign and trade. But
I think it would have to be that.
That's the only way it would happen. I mean, if they do somehow keep Beal in this, which I'm completely fine with just kicking his ass to the curb and sending him to LA with Anthony Davis. But if they did, my dream lineup would be like Bron at the 1, uh, Book and Grayson Allen at the 2 and the 3, KD at the 4, Nurk at the 5, and then you got like Bronny off the bench, 6-man. I don't know, but
I don't small ball. You can go Bronny 1, Book and Beal 2 and 3, KD at the 4, and then I guess Bron at the 5.
Oh, you're saying start Bronny?
I mean,
That'd
if
be
you want to
great.
go small ball in certain situations.
The way I see it, though, for the Suns, at least with the whole Bronny situation, if he's there at 20, because that's where they're going to take him if they take him is at 22, which is so early. But regardless, if he's there, that means he passed up the Lakers didn't take him in the first round. And there's like 3 ways this can go. 1, he brings in Bron. That's great. It doesn't matter what he does. Maybe you draft him and he doesn't bring in Bron, and he's decent and he could be a defensive point guard, play like a poor man's Drew Holiday role, which is fine. That's exactly what the Suns need, is somebody who can pass and defend and shoot the ball a little bit, which you can. Maybe you start him, maybe you don't, whatever. It doesn't really matter. Or you draft him, LeBron doesn't come and he sucks, and you lose the 22nd pick, which in a draft like this one, that's like having very late first round, early second round in any other draft. And at that point, I would definitely take him. So if he's there at 22, I'm rooting for the Suns to take him. I don't think there's a way that this like completely blows up in their face.
Yeah, we talked about it like a month or so ago, right? Where what the Suns kind of needed to do in order to fix some of their issues. And the big one was a point guard who can defend, shoot, and really just distribute so their best players like Book and KD can get to their spots rather than Book, he's an okay facilitator for a point guard, but he's a great facilitator for an off-ball shooting guard. So that fit didn't really work transitioning him to the 1, but he's still a great player regardless. We mentioned Lonzo, we threw him in there a little bit. But honestly, Bronny would be okay if he can just be a solid facilitator at the 1, and like you said, a 3-and-D guy as well. But I wouldn't count on LeBron coming, but Bronny at 22, I think you said. I don't think it's a bad pick. It'd be something you're kind of hoping for a little bit more because he won't bring you an immediate impact that like a top 5 or 7 pick will, especially in a weaker draft. But I mean, who knows? Like you said, there's 3 ways it could go, but within those 3 ways, a lot of things can happen within the roster construction in general.
Yeah, I mean, I get everything about Bronny. I like Bronny. He seems like a good guy, I guess. But I mean, let's not act like he didn't average 4.8, 2.8, and 2.3.
Underutilized.
Underutilized. I mean, Michael Jordan gets a lot of shit for his kids not being good at basketball, but Michael Jordan's son averaged 8, 3.1, and 2.5, which is better than every single Bronny.
Where did he play?
UCF.
Bronny was in the Power 5. And Bronny also had a heart attack before the season. What are you talking about that?
Okay, he had a heart attack. Yeah, I'll give that to him.
If he's cleared to play, he's
So,
fine. Let's relax.
He measured in at only, 6'1 3/4?
Without shoes on. I'm pretty sure you play basketball with shoes on.
How many inches do shoes give you?
I think he's probably like 6'3" with shoes on.
Shoes gives you an inch and a half, about an inch and a quarter.
I think he's probably like 6'3" with shoes on.
How many inches do shoes give you? You go from 6'8" to or 6'4" to 6'7".
Inches, please.
We said what?
Can we put a pause on this entire thing?
Yeah,
we keep saying inches.
Regardless, he's not that short.
I mean, he's not that short considered compared to you.
Notice,
I guess.
Notice how my vibe towards this is completely switched up from what I was saying when he measured in a week ago or 2 weeks ago. But no, I'm full in on Team Bronny for the Suns. I already bought a jersey, so.
Really?
When you get
it's
Bronny,
not number 23 because he doesn't want to get confused with his dad.
Oh, right,
that's
obviously.
true. When you get Bronny and maybe LeBron doesn't come, but LeBron in like 4 years is still playing in the NBA, and then Bryce is in the draft.
Oh.
Do you go
what
get
if
Bronny and Bryce?
Turns out to be the 20-point per game
KD,
scorer?
Beal's gone at that point. Grayson Allen, all 3 of the Jameses. I see
Where's Zuri at?
Zuri can be like a cheerleader.
The WNBA.
Whoa.
I'm not, bro. But regardless,
that's crazy.
I don't know what you guys want me to say.
Sorry,
I thought about her playing.
I don't think she's gonna be playing in the NBA, but maybe
we might integrate by then. Who knows?
Maybe that's a hot take.
Speaking of women's
I was
basketball,
about to say that could smoothly bring us into talking
It
some
does.
WNBA here. I've been pretty vocal on my spreads and subs gambling show that I am trying to become a WNBA guy now. I've watched a decent amount. I'm pretty locked in. I know all the teams now. If you guys want to quiz me on the teams, you can quiz me. I know them all now, all 12.
okay, well,
I don't think I
yeah.
can quiz you if I don't know the teams myself. So that'd be like the student
Name
asking
me a city.
the
Name me a
teacher
city.
all the answers
Name
to
me
the
a city. I
quiz.
got this. Throw me a lob.
I mean, there's like 5
All
cities.
12. All 12. teams.
Connecticut.
Son, come on now.
I mean, that's
bro.
easy.
Oh, shit.
Phoenix. It's easy.
Mercury,
I'm
come on.
giving you the easy ones. Washington.
Mystics, come on. That's not an
I'm-
easy one.
See, I'm not even looking these up. I'm not looking these up either. I know.
I'm trying to think of
Los
non-obvious
Angeles.
ones, but I don't know them.
Los Angeles.
I know this one. I know this one.
Sparks, yeah, come on.
New York.
Damn it.
Liberty.
Good job, Chicago.
Sky, come on now.
Indiana.
Fever.
Isn't there an Atlanta?
Dream.
Oh my god. He does know ball.
You're forgetting a couple.
I know. After this, I know this Minnesota,
The Lynx.
Vegas,
Aces.
Oh my god.
Dallas.
Wings.
Oh my god.
I think I'm only missing one now. What's the one I'm
I
missing?
think that's all of them.
No,
Oh, yeah, you're
there's
missing
a
one.
team that Sue Bird
You're
played
missing
for.
one.
It's the Storm. I don't know what city that is. Is that
Seattle
Washington?
Storm.
Seattle. Look at that. I knew all of them, and I
You
knew
said
them in the-
Washington, bro.
Yeah, Mystics.
Yeah, but you just said you thought the Storm were Washington or Seattle. It's the same.
No,
not
what
the
if
state.
Josh
I
was
meant
just
the
looking all these
state,
up?
I know,
bro.
I
I
know,
meant
I
the
know,
state,
I
not
know.
DC, not the
So
District
yeah,
of
very
Columbia.
impressive that I know 12 teams, but regardless, yeah.
No, name 12 players.
Oh,
No, I'm kidding. I can name 12
was
players.
named
I
the
think.
draft
I
class.
probably could too.
But yeah, Asia Wilson has been great so far this year. She's averaging 25 points a game. I think like 12, 13 rebounds, something crazy. For the rookies, Cameron Brink has been insane. She's averaging like 3 blocks, most blocks in the league. Angel Reese is not leading rebounds anymore, but she was at one point leading rebounds because she just rebounds all of her misses. But I still think she's
Good
a
try.
fantastic player. She's either going to get you a shit ton of rebounds or she's going to get you a shit ton of points if she doesn't miss her shots. But regardless, she's been great. Caitlin Clark's getting a lot of slander online. I think people are just waiting to tear her down because she's been up for so long. But regardless, she's not shooting the ball super well. She's leads the league in turnovers, but still, I think she's going to clean it up. She will adjust to the game. When you have the ball in your hands so much and you're getting double teamed and everybody in the league wants to make sure you're the person who doesn't score because everyone's saying, "Oh, she's getting you all the money. She's bringing recognition to the league." You would think that they would be like happy about that and that it would be boosting the ratings for the league and everyone would be happy about it in the league, but there's definitely some jealousy issues. Still in assists, she's averaging 6.3 assists a game. She's 4th in assists. So I think she's going to be good. I'm not worried about her at all. I still think she's going to be the best player in the league eventually. And the WNBA has actually been kind of entertaining so far. Mercury last night, 1 for 27 from 3 was crazy. I had the over in that game and I was heated. But yeah, that's all I got to say about the WNBA.
I mean, kind of on your point about Caitlin Clark and getting acclimated to the league. That's kind of, it reminds me of Trae Young a little bit, where he was kind of frail coming into the league out of Oklahoma, big like playmaker and just 3-point shooter. And Trae Young didn't come out like lighting it up from deep right away. It took him like half a season to really get acclimated to the NBA speed, the NBA defenders. And let's not forget, she got drafted to the worst team in the league last year. So she doesn't have exactly the best supporting cast around her, unlike the Sky, who had 2 top 8 picks. So she's kind of, she doesn't have the best situation to work with, but like you said, probably 2, 3, 4 years down the line, she'll be putting her name up there with some of the all-time greats with individual seasons, especially beyond the arc when she's getting used to everything. But yeah, she'll definitely be one of the best players in the league within 5 years, probably.
Yeah, and she had a great game last night. Caitlin Clark, 30 points, her career high, 6 assists, 5 rebounds, 3 steals, 3 blocks. She seems to be very good at getting blocks, especially as a young guard, smaller guard. She's good at that. We saw her also. She's one of the only players to get guarded. They're so worried about her that they actually guard her mid free throws. Even when there's still another free throw, they still decide they have to play defense on her. It's impressive considering the ball's not in play. So good for her. She's the fastest rookie in WNBA history to have 100+ points and 50+ assists. So she's doing fine. I think she'll be fine. Like you said, Zach, I think if you give her half a season, she'll be ready to go. And shout out to last thing for the WNBA from me. Shout out Arike Ogunbowale, leading the WNBA in points per game, 28.8. Notre Dame legend.
Dallas Wings legend.
I don't know how good the Dallas Wings are. I just know she's on the Dallas Wings.
They're middle of the pack. They're not bad. I think they were like the 4 seed last year. Or
They're-
we got a WNBA
They're
expert on the
3-2.
pod
I
now.
know. I know.
They're
Like,
3-2. So
you guys can talk to me nice about even though I've been wildly unsuccessful betting it so far, but still, we're getting comfortable. But I wanted to mention Trae Young because you said that was a good comp, I think, because I think Trae Young also led NCAA in points and assists his freshman year or his 1 year in college. People don't give him enough credit for how good he was in college. Whenever I think of him, I think of the Oklahoma days, and every night he's getting like 35 and 10, and he was just absolutely taking over every game. He was so much. I mean, he's good in the NBA, but he was so much better in college than he was in the NBA.
He's
He
a
was
baller,
fantastic. I mean, he got pick spot for Luca. So
yeah, he got a lot of hate too during that.
a ton
whole
of hate.
time.
Everybody hated him, and that was
And-
coming after Buddy Hield, who everybody like kind of liked.
Yeah,
And then that was
It was
after Buddy
interesting.
Hield, right? It was a year after, I think.
maybe a year or two. Yeah,
I don't remember.
Yeah, I think Heald was 16 or 17. I just saw the
17.
graphic on this because they were showing Tatum and Brown being drafted at 3 back-to-back years, and Buddy Hield was in one of them. So
Yeah,
I think it might have been 17.
I think it was because they went to
Trae
the Final
Young.
Four.
averaged 27 points, 8 assists in college.
Yeah, he-
1 year.
Yeah.
He was fantastic.
I
But
was part of the group that was like, I don't think he's gonna translate to the league well.
Me too.
I mean,
me too. But he was fantastic. He was so good.
I kept saying want to be Curry, but yeah, he was great, and he came to the league and he had adjusted, and he's actually pretty damn good. So
And he's put in an impossible spot after being traded for Luka.
oh yeah, the
Like there's
expectations-
nothing he can do at this point. But regardless, I think that's all. Or do you have anything else?
Just to bring up the Trae Young, he does have the single game assist record in Division 1 with 22.
Yeah. Oh, I remember that. That was
Yeah.
he was just an absolute freak in college, man. He was so good.
Yeah.
But
And I have one more thing that we forgot to touch on topics. Rest in peace to the legend Bill Walton.
oh yes.
Oh yes,
Great player, great announcer, unless he was announcing Michigan State games, but great announcer. 2-time college champion, 2-time NBA champion, MVP, great ambassador for the sport. Sad to see him go. I don't think people really knew he was sick, so just sad to see him go.
Yeah, and he's one of the
Something-
most Oh,
There
okay.
you go.
Sorry. He's one of the most positive dudes in sports completely. Whether you liked him or hated him as an announcer, I mean, obviously we were not allowed to see him play, but whether you liked him or hated him as an announcer, he was still just the best dude. It was hard to not like him as a person. So positive, so supporting of everyone, the biggest Pac-12 guy ever. And the year the Pac-12 ends, he can't live without it. He passes away shortly after the Pac-12
So
ends. But yeah, rest in peace to Bill Walton, one of the best dudes.
One stat that I saw about him that I was just absolutely bewildered by. He didn't lose a basketball game from like partway through his junior year of high school to like partway through his senior year of college. He went on like an 88 game winning streak in the game of basketball. That's just
Absurd.
dominant. That's insane.
And I mean, that just adds on to, even though UCLA has been fairly relevant over the past couple decades, I mean, just nothing but dominance during his time and after
That's
him as
unheard
well.
of.
Yeah, he was fantastic too. I mean, NBA MVP, just a million accolades. I can't even, maybe it's not the right time to talk about it, but I can't even imagine how rich that guy is. I
He
mean,
probably has some money,
yeah, I
but
mean,
I don't think that's really what he cared about.
no, not at all. That's why everyone loves him, because he's just a great down to earth dude. Huge Grateful Dead fan,
Mhm.
huge drug guy.
Massive drug guy.
Big
The
video of him-
anti-war guy.
The video of him eating the cupcake candle is a legendary one.
Oh yeah, it just, and he just didn't give a fuck about what anyone thought. He was just him all the time. And yeah, I mean, every story I've seen online of people who talking about like their interactions with him, it's always like the most positive shit in the world. So sucks to see
Yeah.
him go, but rest in peace.
Yeah, the world could use more Bill Waltons.
That's for sure.
Completely agree.
Basketball could use more Bill Waltons. But we'll move on here to the NBA playoffs with the Boston Celtics sweeping the Indiana Pacers. Both of these series, even though well, Mavericks T-Wolves is 3-1 now, but most likely the Mavs are going to win. It's lopsided on the scoreboard, but the actual games have been so close. Like the Pacers and the Timberwolves very well could be leading their series right now, if not already won them. The Pacers were outside of game two, game 1, 3, and 4, they were leading late in the game. Games 1 and 3, it was like 97 or 94% chance for them to win the game late. And it sucks to see because they didn't have Halliburton for the last 2 games, which they were both in. A lot of the role players played well. TJ McConnell was up and down. Neesmith was pretty solid for them. Nemhard was just amazing without Tyrese Halliburton and with him. Obi Toppin had a great playoffs as well. This Pacers team has a lot to hang their head on. They've If Halliburton's healthy, they very well could be in this series. If they didn't just have some late game collapses, it is what it is. There's a lot of discourse about the Celtics going on around right now, though, because first round they lose, or they lose. They win in 5 against the Heat without Jimmy Butler. Second round they win in 5 against the Cavs, who didn't have Jared Allen for most of the series and didn't have Donovan Mitchell for the last 2 games, I think. And then they play the Pacers, win in 4, barely winning this series without Tyrese Halliburton because they've just barely came back in 3 of the 4 games. So there's a lot of discourse, but regardless, you play who's in front of you at the end of the day. Um, I'm happy to see a team does get some shit for this because it just seems like it's random which teams get hate for this, which teams don't. But regardless, I've gained a lot of respect for the Celtics because they're just always there's always something on Twitter or something on social media about, are the Celtics actually not really that good? They won 64 games in the regular season. They've lost 2 games in the playoffs so far. They're going to the finals. The Celtics are my pick to win this whole thing. I don't care who comes out of that series in the West. The Celtics are the best team in the league. When they get Porzingis back, they're going to have rim protection, and I think they're going to prove a lot of people dumb in the finals.
I could probably talk your ear off for like 15, 20 minutes about a potential final series between the Celtics and Mavs, because that's kind of what it's looking like right now. So I'll kind of save a little bit of that for what will probably be next week once we know the finals matchup. And the matchup does start on Thursday, June 6th, if I'm not mistaken. But regardless, this series for the Pacers at least is more of a shoulda, coulda, woulda. Uh, they had at least 2 opportunities where they should have won, but didn't. And then game 4, like you mentioned, Josh, they were up late, but not necessarily by a lot to where it was like a guaranteed win or should have a near guaranteed win. Games 1 and 3 are just those types of games where it's so unfortunate where you lose those and they just take all the wind out of your sails. I said it after game 1. That was their chance to just make an absolute statement against the Celtics, especially on the road where, yeah, they won 60 games last season, but they also went 37-4 at home, which absolutely insane. The Pacers, they were missing Halliburton for the last 2 games, and it kind of showed. They didn't have the best of ball movement, and they were missing that outside threat that Halliburton does provide at times when he's hot. But I mean, it's unfortunate. Both of these teams did have, like you said, Josh, you play who you have in front of you, but both these teams kind of just had lackluster opponents leading up to the conference finals, and the Celtics just take advantage. They get it done early. They give Porzingis a chance to rest for, I think, what is it, 9 days, and they can get Tatum fully healthy, Jaylen Brown fully healthy. Just let them rest up and get locked in for the finals. They're looking to get some vengeance for a few years ago when they faced the Warriors, and I think they are my favorite to win it, but depending on who comes out of the West, even though it might be the Mavs, it could be close. For this scenario, I'm just going to say, yeah, sure, Mavs win in 5 or 6, worst case scenario. Luka is going to be the best player in that series. It's going to be so hard for me to pick against that, despite the Celtics having a historically dominant roster in general. If Tatum was having a dominant playoff series, he had a great conference finals. But if he was having a better playoffs in general, like all 3 rounds prior to this, I'd have a lot more confidence in the Celtics. But if they don't have that lead guy who's guaranteeing you an efficient 30 or a potential 40 or 50 point explosion slightly less efficiently, I mean, Luka's going to give you at least 1 or 2 40 bombs, like those 40-point triple doubles. Kyrie's very capable of it. Hell, in one of the most dramatic games of our generation, he dropped 41 with LeBron and hit one of the most iconic shots we've ever seen in Game 7 in 2016. So the Mavs have the guys if they match up against the Celtics in the finals, but the Celtics, their team is just so good that they took care of business. Like you said, Josh, only lost 2 games this playoff so far. Their biggest test is yet to come. And I'm very excited for this final series for whoever they play against.
Yeah, I'm very excited as well. The Pacers, they put up a good fight. 3 out of the 4 games were very, very close. They could have, and should have won maybe 3 of the 4 games. Siakam played very good in this series. Like you said, Josh, Andrew Nemhard was phenomenal. Unfortunately, Halliburton missed the last 2 games of the series. That was rough for him. TJ McConnell had a great playoffs. If TJ McConnell could shoot the threes like most, just average, he could just shoot average amount of
Like
average
most white
percentage.
guys.
Yeah, I was gonna say most white guys, but I didn't want to. But TJ McConnell, he would be honestly, he'd just be a lot better. He was very good driving to the rim. He could finish decently well. He got very aggressive in that game 4. Wasn't looking to pass as much, which I don't think hurt them too much, but they could have used a little more passing from him. Maybe got over 6.5 assists. That would have been nice. Aaron Nesmith was solid all series. Obi Toppin, being able to spread the floor was very good for the Pacers. They're a young team. I only see them getting better, especially with Halliburton being back, Benedict Mathurin coming back next year. A lot of people have been saying they had a Mickey Mouse run to the Eastern Conference Finals with some of the injuries they had to face, but I mean, you play. I don't see as many people, I feel like, criticizing the Celtics as they have the Pacers, which is interesting because the Celtics have the exact same thing with the injuries. But Jason Tatum played very good this series, averaged 30. Jaylen Brown averaged 29.8. Jaylen Brown won Eastern Conference Most Outstanding Player. Good for him. I think it was well deserved. He was the best player on the court, in my
Did
opinion.
they call it most outstanding, like NCAA?
I don't know. I just know he was most outstanding. I think it's named after
He
someone.
won the MVP or most outstanding. I know
Yeah,
that for
it's
sure.
like Larry Bird or it's an East.
It might be Larry Bird, and then the West is Magic.
That I think is correct. I'm not positive
That's
on that.
right.
Or is the West Kobe? Or no, Kobe's All-Star game MVP.
All-Star game. Yeah, I
All-Star,
think
and
it's
then Finals MVP is
Bill Russell.
MJ.
Bill.
No, Bill Russell is Finals MVP. MJ is regular season MVP. I think.
No, he's not regular season MVP. I don't think there's anybody is named after regular season, is there?
I'll look it up, but I could have sworn they named all the awards.
They did.
Yeah,
I
Eastern
don't know.
Conference Finals is the Larry Bird Eastern Conference Finals MVP. So I'm assuming West is then
Probably Magic, yeah.
Magic.
It's the Michael Jordan Trophy, the NBA MVP.
Really? I didn't know they named the MVP after somebody. Wow. That's a
They
fucking
did all of them.
That's a sick award to have. Sucks for LeBron.
Yeah.
They decided to name all these when he's still in the league.
Oh,
LeBron-
yeah,
LeBron
that
will
was
get-
just the most. He'll
LeBron's
get
just-
something for sure.
Who are they going to take away?
They'll add
Yeah, that's
something.
tough.
They'll add
They
something.
can't give him like some rinky-dink
Oldest player?
trophy, though.
Oldest player in the NBA.
Oh,
the
maybe they
longevity
do.
award.
Maybe they do. Honestly, that's probably pretty likely. I would say.
Or like most minutes played, and it'll be like
Yeah.
the longevity award.
Backpack
It'll be
award.
the
Who
They should have
carries
given-
the team the most.
Should have given Jordan like the
Backpack.
scoring
That's a good one.
championship.
Oh, is
But-
there? Oh, if no one has scoring, then that's gonna be. That's
Oh,
gonna
it
be
might-
I mean,
that
I don't
be
know how
LeBron
many
because he
scoring
is all
championships
time.
LeBron won.
but he still has the most points, though.
Yeah, he has most
I
points
guess,
all time.
but-
So
You gotta
guess
give
that
him
could make a little bit of
something.
sense.
You can't give him
I
nothing.
don't know.
But yeah, congrats
Yeah.
to Jaylen Brown, I guess.
Finals runner up because he's 4-6 in the finals.
Oh, funny. Yeah.
And best performance in the finals without winning.
He's gonna go get number 5 next year with the Suns. Just wait, but
Okay, we will see. We will
Yeah,
see.
sure.
but I wanted to say with the Celtics really quickly. People are hating on the Celtics. If they go and win this next series in 5 games, are they going to be one of the best teams to ever live? I mean, they'll have 3 losses in the playoffs.
They're like top 10 in a lot of metrics, like all time for just a team.
I know.
They're a very damn good team. I bet you in like 2 or 3 years we'll look back and be like, holy shit, going 16-3 in the playoffs is incredibly tough regardless of who you play. That team was special. But the immediate aftermath is going to be like, oh, Mickey Mouse ring, asterisk, all that.
I don't
They
think
gotta
you
do
can
it,
say
though.
that.
They
Though.
definitely deserve their flowers. I
If
agree
they
with that.
dominate the Timberwolves or the Mavericks, I don't think you can say it's a Mickey Mouse ring.
Oh, I
We
don't
gotta
think you
do it.
should regardless, but to get to the finals, it might be. You
That
know?
I can understand that argument, but
I'm not trying to make the argument. I just think that's what's going to be said immediately after and for like a few months
Yeah.
post like parade.
I also think that has to do with where the media is. I've noticed a lot this playoffs more than ever that where like because there's a lot of media out there that are fans of teams. There's a lot that just are fans of the teams that they cover, and it seems that all of the teams on the East Coast or all of the East teams, if your favorite team is in the East or the team you cover is in the East, you're gonna slander the East teams more and give more credit to the West teams. And I think it's vice versa. Like I think you're gonna see a lot of the West, maybe not the LA centered teams, but the West Coast teams giving more credit to Boston than New York writers or Philly
Yeah.
writers who just despise Boston. Those are going to be the people that discredit them more. Like you're going to hear me hype up these teams way more than I hype up these two teams that we're about to talk about, and I'm sure it probably feels like that with you guys. But regardless, I've
Yeah.
noticed. But
I understand that. I think that's just kind of normal, especially with how the media is nowadays. We saw Stephen A. Smith today criticizing sports media like he's not part of the problem.
oh yeah,
So
I
that's
mean, and
actually,
Stephen A's a Knicks fan, and who did he say is the best backcourt of all time?
yeah,
Luke and Kyrie. So
which it's
I don't
one of
think
them.
he's far off by saying that. I'm gonna be honest.
it's a debate. They got to win for me to be in that
I agree.
conversation, though. You can't. We're not gonna say best backcourt.
I don't
of all
think
time.
winning, like obviously winning would be huge, but I mean, you can't just ignore their talent.
What are we gonna call the Brooklyn Nets one of the most talented teams of all time? Then
No, because they didn't play enough together.
yes, they also didn't win shit. Same thing as the Mavericks so far.
This is also year 2 of this, right?
Yeah,
Not
well,
even 2 full years.
Kyrie seems to have reformed and gone back to like being a normal person, but you never know. You
Yeah.
never know with Kyrie. You never want to be too certain. But I like
Stay
this
here
new
the
Kyrie.
rest. He's gonna sign a new contract. He plans on staying here for the rest of his career.
Should we pull up the Boston clip?
That's kind of what I was going after.
Okay, I was about to say, but yeah, I do, and we can transition now into the Timberwolves Mavs if you guys have nothing left to say about the East.
Shout out to Sam Hauser for continuing to get 15 minutes a game, shooting 7% from three,
Yeah, I
being a
know.
3-point shooter.
And Peyton Pritchard gets 9 minutes after going 2 for 3 from the field, but I digress. Regardless, moving on to the West here, I will say, as much as I do not want to see the Mavs win the title because I would despise to see Luka win one, God, do I want to see Kyrie get his revenge. I would love to see Kyrie get that Boston revenge. I love Kyrie, and I would love to see him win a ring, but sadly, my hate for Luka rises higher than my love for Kyrie. So I will be rooting for Boston. But regardless, Timberwolves win game 4, making the series 3-1, going back to Minnesota. Same thing here, though. All these games have been really, really close for the most part. Which game was it in the series that wasn't close? There was one that was like kind of a blowout.
Game 3 was 116 to 107.
Yeah, but even that one was like kind of close at points too. So honestly, all of them have been pretty close. I think that the Timberwolves just don't have. I love Ant, and I think he's really, really good. I don't think they have the closers to compete with Kyrie and Luka at the end of the day. I just don't think they can. Same way that I don't think the Pacers have the closers to compete with the way that Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum played in the Eastern Conference Finals. I don't see how the Timberwolves come back from this. I think every game for the rest of the series is going to continue to be close, though. And I would even venture to guess that the Timberwolves win tomorrow night and go 3-2, and then this game ends in 6 in Dallas. But yeah, Luka has been a lot better, back to himself. I know he has like every record for like most points, most assists, like through however 43 or however many playoff games he's played, or 44, I guess probably now after last night. But he's back to his old self. He was playing really bad the first couple series. He's back to his old self. Kyrie has just been phenomenal. He's turning it up at the right time. He is the perfect guy, I feel like, to keep Luka calm, make sure that he's ready to go, and that he's not getting in his own head too much, bitching at the refs too much, which Kyrie's not going to be able to stop that because he's going to bitch at the refs either way. But I think Luka is the perfect counterpart to, or sorry, Kyrie is the perfect counterpoint part to Luka. And I think the Mavs are going to go to the finals. And if I had to make a prediction right now, I'd say Celtics over Mavs in 6 games.
I have 2 predictions for the finals, and it all revolves around one player, and it's not Luka or Kyrie. But I'll get to that in a little bit. Kyrie, like you mentioned, I think he's probably one of the best Robins of all time to a Batman. We saw it in Boston, ironically, where he was the number 1 guy with a young Tatum, a young Jaylen Brown, and that Celtics team. They were good, but with Kyrie as the full-time guy, he's not the facilitator that a guy like Luka is. So it's harder for him to get other guys involved while also getting his own. But Luka is the ultimate number one option, especially this year where he's playing pretty solid defense for the average NBA player. And he can facilitate. He sees the entire court, even when he's probably got his eyes closed. Jokic level shit. He can shoot the three ball. He can score at all three levels. He can bully the smaller guards, but he can get a quicker step on those bigger wings that they have to throw on him because he is so husky and able to back you down in the post. He's gonna be a Hall of Famer one day. I personally hope he gets a ring. Kyrie revenge ring would be great too. But the player that I'm looking at right now is Lively. His impact on this team is going to be astronomical if he plays in this final series or how many games he misses. The Mavs need to finish this series off as fast as possible so Luka can get rest because he hasn't been at 100% the entire playoffs. And so Lively can get as much rest as possible without missing games. The way he facilitates out of that pick and roll with Luka is just insane for not even just a rookie, just a big man in general. He's not Jokic by any means, but you wouldn't think that this guy is a rookie with how he's able to facilitate from the free throw line or the high post after he gets a pass from Luka. He's making things look real easy, and Gafford is the one you should look at to see that it's not as easy as Lively is making it look. Gafford is a fine player. He's a good backup center. He's going to have to play some real hard minutes early in the final series and in the end of this series because he's going to be asked to take on a bigger role. But it's going to be a real close call. If Lively misses a good chunk of the final series, like if the Mavericks end up winning this series, which I think they will, they should. I think if Lively plays all 7 games, 6-5, however many games the series is, I think it'll be a close Celtics in 7. But if he doesn't play, it'll be Celtics in 6. But the Mavs will get like one game they shouldn't win, and then one game because Luka goes off for a 45-point triple double. And then the other 4 games where they lose and the Celtics win, they'll be like 3 out of the 4 going to be dominant wins. Clearly, Boston's the better team. And then one's going to be like, okay, it was close, but because the Mavs kind of made a slight comeback in the final like 3-4 minutes, it looks closer than what it kind of was. So that's still another week away. We still got to see the Mavs. We got to see what Lively is once he gets all checked out. He had that potential concussion. He's got a neck thing, I think I saw. But yeah, it'll be very interesting to see how this series finishes and how the finals starts.
Yeah, we expect this to be a very close series. So far, it's now 3-1. Pretty much every game has been close, which has made for an entertaining series. But the Mavericks have, like you guys said, they have the closers. They have 2 of them that you can give the ball to late in the game that can win the game for you. We saw Luka hit basically a buzzer-beating game winner. It wasn't. Naz Reid had a chance, and he was unable to do it. Anthony Edwards has had some bad games so far in this series, but he's still their leading scorer at 23 points per game. Cat had a really rough game 3, but he responded last night with a very good game 4. He shot the ball very well. He continues to put himself in foul trouble. He has all playoffs. But if he can stay on the court, especially if he's able to shoot the 3 ball like he did last night, he is just a difference maker for him. Naz Reid, he's been very good for them, like he has all season, 6th man of the year, 14.5 points per game. And for the Mavericks, it's just been Luka Doncic has kind of seemed to find his rhythm in the playoffs. He's averaging 31 in this series. It's been phenomenal. Kyrie's been very good as well. I mean, these are their 2 best players, too. Like we had talked about, maybe the best backcourt duo we've seen. 24 points per game for Kyrie. PJ Washington has been solid again. He hasn't been shooting the ball as well in this series, but he still has been solid for him. Daniel Gafford has been good for him. We saw Maxi Kleber finally come back. He played his first game last night after his injury. He played a little bit. He had a new viral meme, it looks like, of all 4. I think it was Kyrie, Luka, PJ, and someone else all waving him over like the Andre Iguodala meme. But he played all right. We saw a little bit of Jaden McDaniels guarding Kyrie, which Kyrie had said he hadn't really seen someone that long on him all series. So it's going to be a little bit of adjusting. We'll see if they continue to do that in game 5. But like you said, Zach, Derek Lively's been very good. Unfortunately, he did get hurt, so we'll see how long he's out. And Derek Jones Jr., who was solid on the Bulls, seems to find a very good home here in Dallas. With Luka, when you have a guard that can pass the ball as well as him, it just makes everybody around him better. And it's just how good he is as a player. He's averaging what, 9 assists in this series, so he's been phenomenal.
Yeah, I had a couple things to say here about the Timberwolves. One, you kind of touched on it with Cat. He was really good last night, but he's been horrible in this series so far. 5 for 18 in game 3 with 0 for 8 from 3. Game 2, 4 for 16, 1 for 5 from 3. And game 1, 6 for 20, 2 for 9 from 3. And he's been so bad, and they've been in all of these games, which just tells you if Cat just played better, they probably would be at least 2-2 right now. I'd say maybe even 3-1 with the way they played in some of these games. So that's unfortunate. You need him to be better. If he's bad, they're pretty much toast. Naz Reid, you also touched on that. He's been phenomenal outside of last night. He only had 6 points, but they won. He had 15, 23, and 14 in the other three, so he was great in those games. And then I just had to touch on Rudy Gobert because the thing about Rudy Gobert, which just makes him, he's such a baffling player. And we didn't see this in the Sun series, and this is why I think some of the discourse around him changed for like a week or two. He won Defensive Player of the Year, won his fourth one, which is super impressive, of course, in right before the playoffs started, or maybe it was announced during the playoffs in the first round. I'm not too sure when that got announced, but he didn't have a lot of guards switched on him at all in that series against the Suns, which didn't really get to expose him. He was phenomenal in that series because he's maybe one of, if not the best rim protector we've ever seen in the NBA. But when he gets switched out on a guard, I've never seen in my life a 4-time Defensive Player of the Year who gets targeted so much by guards. It's crazy. I mean, I know he's a rim protector, but if he's out in open space, he looks like a fool every time. It's unbelievable, to be honest. And it's a problem. They just cannot let him get switched on at any point because he is a liability at that point then, which has been the whole thing in Rudy Gobert's whole career. Is in the playoffs, he has to get sat because he gets switched on too many times and he can't stay in front of guards, which he's a 7-footer. You don't expect him to. But when it's a guy that's won 4 Defensive Player of the Years and you're paying him a shit ton of money and you traded a ton of picks for him, you want to play him. You want to have him in the lineup as much as possible. So he's just truly a baffling player who is maybe the only 4 or more than 2-time Defensive Player of the Year ever who gets targeted. I can't think of another one.
Yeah,
I can't
either.
Yeah, you definitely can't. But in the big like example of what you're talking about is obviously that Luka shot.
There's a lot of them though. It wasn't just that.
Well, no, I know, but like the big one, like the one that comes to mind right away, it's that Luka shot. But how many big men in the league really can like guard something like that? Whether it's Luka or Kyrie or even a Devin Booker, since we're talking about the Sun series a little bit. How many big men in the league today can really do that? Only 2 come to mind. Bam Adebayo, just because he's a little bit smaller, he's not as slow as a big guy like Gobert, and he's got a better build to guard a guy like Luka, just because of his frame and his ability to move his feet well, and the switchability that he does with the Miami defense. And then Wembanyama, just because he's an alien, he's 7'4" with an 8-foot wingspan, that he doesn't have to be that close to you. He will still force you to alter your shot because he's got the craziest reach that we've probably ever seen. So outside of those 2 outliers, no one's really going to be able to stop guys like Luka and Kyrie, who are 2 outstanding creators with the ball in their hands. So it's hard to blame Gobert for situations like that. But yeah,
and that's the reason why I don't think he wins another one is because of Wemby.
Yes.
Yeah.
He's everything that Gobert
Chet
is.
Too.
And so
don't
much
forget
better.
about Chet.
Yeah, but
Wemby
is.
It is kind of weird to see a Defensive Player of the Year being such a liability in like half of like all defensive scenarios. I mean, he's one of the best, like you said, one of the best rim protectors and just shot deterrence we've ever seen in the history of the game. Hence why he's won 4, and he's so good at that it makes up for the fact that he can't guard on the perimeter to save his life.
Yeah, but that's why, in my opinion, I think Wemby should have won Depoy over Gobert this year. But Gobert's that good in the paint. Just going back to Cat one more time, that game 3 performance, he shot 0 for 8 from 3. That was, I think, the worst shooting game of his entire career. So he's had some bad games. He was 2 for 9 in game 1. If he would have just shot halfway decent in any of those first 3 games, maybe they would have stolen one of them, and this series could be 2-2. But They're going to go as far. I mean, Ant hasn't been great either. They need those two to step up and continue to shoot the ball well if they want to find their way back into the series. We saw last year, Celtics were down 3-0 and were able to make this series 3-3. Maybe the Wolves are able to do that this year. And I mean, no team's ever done it, but you never want to say never.
Yeah, that's about all I got here. If you guys have anything else to add.
That's all I got.
All right, cool. So that does it for this episode 61, I believe, of the Engage 8 podcast. We will be back next week with a possible draft of some sort. I'm not going to say too much because we don't know what's going to happen and what won't, as well as recapping this Timberwolves Mavs series and previewing whatever the NBA finals ends up being, most likely Celtics Mavs, but whatever it ends up being, as well as any headlines that pop up between now and then. But until then, hit all the links in our description for our Spotify, TikTok, and social media, and we will see everybody in the next one.